You might have just gotten yourself a nice fancy camera and you're using it for video purposes and you got a really nice fancy lens. One of the things you probably discovered, especially if you want to shoot with nice big bright apertures, wide open apertures for that beautiful bokeh, is that if you're not using one of these, your image is going to be 100% blown out. And what these are is we're comparing two different neutral density filters from Hoya. We have the Hoya HMC filters and the Hoya Solas Professional IRDN neutral density filters. So the question is, do you go for this or that? In this video, we're going to discuss just that. So let's go. So I have a number of cameras. I definitely record a lot of videos with them. And that's actually a lesson that I learned really quickly is that, well, if you haven't budgeted for a ND filter, you absolutely need to. So what is an ND filter? Why do you need an ND filter? An ND filter, the best way about thinking about an ND filter is that it is going to be sunglasses for your camera lens. Now, a lot of people when we're recording with nice, bright, big, wide apertures because they want to have that blurry background. Now, for photography, it's generally not going to be an issue and you don't need any filters because your camera can adjust the shutter speed all the way down to 1/3000th, 5,000th, 6,000th of a second. However, with video, your frame rate is, and your, or quote unquote, your shutter speed is only going to be 1/24th, 1/30th, or 1/60th, or even 1/20th. So if you're shooting on a bright outdoor sunny day, and you're shooting with a wide aperture, it's going to allow in way too much light that the camera is just going to start freaking out. And if you want to maintain a suitable frame rate. So that's why what you need to do is get an ND filter. And what this does is you're putting it on in front of the lens and it's going to cut out the amount of light coming into the camera lens. And generally, you're only really going to need this is if you are shooting videos at, let's say, f1.8, 2.8, I would say up to 3.2 or possibly even f4 in bright, sunny outdoor conditions or studio environments where you have a bunch of lights coming in. So right now I'm filming on a Panasonic Lumix S5 II and I'm filming with the 50mm f1.8. I'm filming at f2.8 and I do have this filter on the camera right now, which is a 2-stop or 3-stop. It's an ND8 filter. So that, where was the, looking for the exact number of stops. I believe that is 2-stop filter. So it just does enough that I can still maintain a really good semi-blurry background and the camera's still not going to freak out. Now, the most important part about getting a neutral density filter is that much like sunglasses, when you put them on, there's a lot of sunglasses that are going to be very tinted. So you're going to have some that are going to turn your image blue, some that are going to turn your image red. And that's definitely not going to be good for videography or if you're doing long exposure photography. So when it comes to quality ND filters, probably the most important aspect that you can do is getting a good quality ND filter, which is truly neutral density and it's not going to have massive tints or hues. And the two best ones I would say for the money at this price point are going to be the ones from HMC. So we have two that I picked here because I think these are going to be great values. We have the HMC and the Solas. So what's the difference? So the HMC is the, so I have the 67mm, but it's on my lens right now. So I'm going to show you with this 55mm, which is also the HMC. So the HMC is the entry-level filter. Now the good news is it is still going to be made in Japan. You get good quality glass and it is going to be fairly well made. You'll be able to put it on the lens, it'll screw on, and it'll do the job. I wouldn't necessarily recommend screwing this on So actually I think this is going to be for this lens here, so I'll show you. I'm going to take that off. So it'll screw on, but it is an aluminum ring, so it's not going to be super nice fine thread. I wouldn't recommend taking it on and off all of the time. It's also going to be a little bit on the thinner side, so if you have arthritis or you have hand issues, you might want to consider getting a wrench. But what this does for the price point is it'll get the job done, and it's not going to distort your image, and you'll be able to use the video captured with this filter without having to do massive color correction. So now I'm not talking about grading, I'm talking about correction, because the filter you put on is having like a horrible hue. And a lot of the cheaper filters, that's exactly what you're getting with those. Now, if you want something a little bit better, or I would say you are filming, you're doing long exposure photography, or you're possibly still on a DSLR or on a film camera, the upgrade option you have is this, which is the Hoya Solas. So the Solas filter is also a neutral density filter. However, it's a higher tier filter. So this, as you can see, is the Solas filter. One of the things you're going to find is that when you pick it up, it is much heavier weight. So the glass quality on here and the coatings are going to be different. More importantly, I think, is that the ring itself is made of higher quality materials. So when you're putting it on and off, it is going to go on a lot nicer. And more importantly, it's going to come off a lot nicer as well, without causing too many issues. So just the ring itself, very, very much a massive improvement in that regard. Now, the biggest thing that the Solas promises is that it is going to cut infrared. It's an infrared neutral density filter, so reduces the amount of light entering the lens, giving you control over the field. The Solas IRDN filters are Hoya's premium line of optical glass, with the added benefit of IR reduction. So the filter dramatically reduces digital artifacts and color shifts associated with infrared contamination when seen when using standard ND filters. So there's a lot of marketing speak to that, and there's some truth to it. However, a good quality digital camera or mirrorless, it is going to remove, or it's going to bypass a lot of the infrared noise to begin with. However, with older film cameras, it's absolutely going to make a huge difference. So definitely do keep that in mind. So right now when I record our YouTube videos, we use multiple cameras. One of them will generally use the IRDN filter. The other one will use a basic HMC filter. And the best part about these is that the footage is going to look very, very similar. We don't have any worries about them. So that's going to be the difference. So if you're looking for a good quality neutral density filter and you're on a budget, definitely go for the Hoya HMC. However, if you do have the budget, I definitely recommend going for the Solas. These are fantastic filters, and it's going to be, it's not necessarily that it's going to get you better results, but it's far better. It's like a good quality tool that you're working with. And it's almost kind of like if you're buying a screwdriver from, like a cheap screwdriver from the dollar store, or you're buying a screwdriver from Tecton or another higher end brand. They both get the job done, but it's easier and nicer to work with one tool versus the other. So do keep that in mind. So hopefully that gives you the information that you need in order to make the choice between the HMC and the Solas filters.